Well, hello there everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we have to talk about the Ford Bronco because, well, if you've been waiting a few years for a Ford Bronco, it looks like you are never going to get one at this point. But before we explain what is happening, first off, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. So to properly explain what's happening today, we need to quickly go over the rocky history of the Ford Bronco, the new generation Bronco. So it was officially debuted all the way back in summer of 2020. And I distinctly remember the official debut because I remember seeing the videos of it racing through the desert and climbing on rocks and everything. And I was like, this thing is awesome. And so just like a lot of people, I wanted to go and order one. And Ford said at announcement that if you want a new Bronco, you have to pre-order one by giving them $100 and telling them what Bronco you want them to build. And based on your place in line, they will, build you a Bronco when they get to you. However, in reality, the whole system just completely failed. So first off, their website crashed a bunch of times, so actually putting in a pre-order was next to impossible. And so unless you were physically in a Ford dealership that was talking to Ford reps at the time of launch, then the chances of you getting like a first edition or a Badlands Sasquatch or a Wild Track were next to none. Like, a lot of people missed out on the most desirable packages with the Bronco. And well, I happened to be at a Ford dealership when it was announced because, like, I wanted to make sure I was at the right place at the right time. And I was talking to the GM of the Ford dealer, and we ended up getting a first edition order for me. But again, that was I feel like it was honestly, like, it was hard work, but it was also pure luck because that whole launch situation was a mess. But regardless, they could have obviously made the rest of the Bronco situation a lot cleaner than the launch. But that's not what happened, because after launch, Ford realized that they were not going to be able to build nearly as many Broncos as they expected because of the supply constraints that happened out of the whole COVID pandemic situation. And so they started to get further and further behind with orders. And then things got even worse because some of the parts suppliers, like the parts supplier for the hardtop, ended up giving Ford crappy parts, right? There was the whole delay with hardtops. Like, I remember with my first edition, I didn't get it until like the end of 2021, and I was supposed to get it at like the beginning of 2021. Like, it kept just getting delayed and delayed and delayed. I remember I reviewed my first, new generation Ford Bronco at like the beginning of 2021, and then it's like I thought my first edition was supposed to be first, and it's like, nope, it was actually the last edition is what it should have been called. But regardless, there were just all sorts of issues with different parts associated with the Bronco. And so Ford just, like I said, kept getting more and more behind with their production on the Bronco. And so being so behind on production with the Bronco, Ford did everything they could to play catch up. But they also made some interesting decisions that some of you might see as mistakes along the way. One thing that a lot of people just don't like is the fact that Ford started to build Broncos for people that ordered Broncos after the initial debut because they ordered packages on the Bronco that were more readily available. So for example, I know several people that ordered a Bronco a year or even 2 years after that, initial debut, and they ordered, maybe like a base Bronco without any sort of options and a soft top, and they pretty much got it like right away. And so it's like you had the situation where these people put a deposit on a Bronco in 2020, and they're still waiting for their Bronco. And then there are people that are going into Ford dealers and ordering Broncos and getting it within a few months of them ordering it. And so you can see that definitely leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And so it kind of just became this like meme type situation where it's like, oh, when are you going to get your Ford Bronco? And it's like, eventually 2050, right? However, Ford has now come out and they've decided that they are going to basically release a remedy for all of these people that have been waiting for Broncos that have been under constraint. And that's what we need to talk about today. So first off, the options that are under constraint today that have pretty much been under constraint for the entirety of Bronco existence is the hardtop, the Sasquatch package, and the 2.7 to an extent, right? We all know that Ford has just been struggling to get enough hardtops for the Broncos, and then with the Sasquatch package, the 35-inch tall tires, that is an issue. And then when it comes to the 2.7, this is pretty interesting. This engine is used in other vehicles within, Ford's lineup, and for some reason in the Bronco, it has been unreliable. Like there's a lot of stories of people having this engine blow up on them. And so I'm wondering if Ford is basically having to save engines to replace in Broncos because they know that there's something, wrong with it. But regardless, those are the options under constraint. So you can now extrapolate that there are 2 Bronco packages that you're probably not going to be able to get right now. And that is the Badlands with the Sasquatch package with the 2.7, and then the Wild Track, because the Wild Track comes standard with the 2.7 and the Sasquatch package, and both of those with a hard top, right? Because if you get them with a soft top, that makes it slightly less constrained, but still they're constrained because Sasquatch and because of 2.7. And so because these 2 packages have been so constrained for the entirety of new generation Bronco existence, Ford has decided that instead of making their customers continue to wait, then they're instead going to give their customers an ultimatum. Here's the ultimatum. So the first choice, actually I'm going to do the choices in reverse order. So the fourth choice that you have is to just walk away. You can just walk away from your Bronco order and that's it. The third choice that you have is that you can keep your Bronco order in the system. And again, this applies to people that have been waiting since 2020. You have to remember that. You can keep your order in the system, and if Ford doesn't build it for the 23 model year, they're just going to cancel your order and you have to get back in line. The second choice is Ford will give you a credit, I believe it's about $2,500 towards buying another Ford model. However, Ford says that this credit will not apply to any models that are considered desirable. That's not their wording, but that's basically what they're saying. So like if you want to apply it to like the F-150 Lightning, doesn't work, right? You have to apply it to a vehicle that nobody wants to buy right now. So like, I don't know, Ford Edge, for example. And then the first choice that they name as the first choice is, again, $2,500 credit to basically switch your Badlands Sasquatch order or your Wild Track order to a less desirable version of the Bronco. So a Badlands with the 33-inch tall tires, for example, or a Big Bend. And by the way, soft top, right? Because again, hard tops are still under constraint. So what Ford is basically telling these people that have been waiting for 3 years at this point is that, well, either you can just sit on the hope system and basically wait and see if we're able to build you a Bronco, you can back out, we'll give you a credit towards a crappy vehicle you don't want to buy, or we'll give you a credit towards a version of the Bronco that you don't want to buy. Again, like the reason why someone is going to order a Badlands Sasquatch or a Wild Track is because they want the look of it or they want the capability associated with it. They don't like, if they wanted, a lesser version of the Bronco, they would have gone for a lesser version, right? So it's ridiculous. So here's the deal. The new generation Bronco is actually an amazing vehicle. I've reviewed a bunch, I'm pretty sure I've reviewed more Broncos than anyone else on YouTube. Just go look at the main channel. I've reviewed a bunch. I've driven the Bronco off-road and on-road, and I can confidently say, it drives amazing. I'm a Wrangler owner currently, but the new generation Bronco, it handles better on road, the steering's better, the seats are more comfortable, the sound insulation's better. It frankly is a better vehicle compared to the Wrangler until you take it off road, and the Wrangler with solid axles can, outperform a Bronco in a lot of circumstances, but most people don't take them off road. But the reason I'm mentioning that is, despite the fact that the new generation Bronco looks amazing, drives amazing, and just frankly is an amazing vehicle, its reputation's tarnished at this point because you had a just complete poop show for the launch, tons of waiting for customers to actually get their Bronco. And then you had the whole situation where a lot of Ford dealers started marking up Broncos, which is something that I didn't mention in this video, but that's something that happened consistently. And I mean, look at the used market on Broncos. Any package on the new generation Bronco that's desirable, again, Badlands, Sasquatch, Wild Track, they're all going for significant premiums over MSRP. And so affordability for the new generation Bronco has been pretty crappy overall because of all the markups that we've seen. And now Ford is deciding to give 2 big fat middle fingers to their customers by saying, yeah, I know you've been waiting 3 years for this specific package and you've just been, sitting there diligently, but guess what? You're not going to get it. You have to switch to something else that you don't want. Again, if that person wanted to buy something like a Ford Edge or Ford Escape, they would have ordered that. If that person wanted to buy a base model Badlands with a soft top, they would have ordered that. The reason that these people put in orders for Wild Tracks and for Badlands with a Sasquatch package, with a hard top, with a 2.7, is because that's the Bronco they want. So I think this is a huge misstep by Ford as a company. And this is coming from someone who has bought I think 6 or 7 Fords in the last few years, and I happen to own 2 Fords right now. I have purchased a lot of Fords. I love the product that they make. But some of the decisions that they make as a company, it's definitely questionable. And this is one of those decisions. So if I was in charge of Ford right now, I would just pull back on this. Like, I would pull back massively. And, you know, as an apology for the people that have been waiting for 3 years, I would still give them a $2,500 credit. Like, if seriously, if someone's been waiting for a Wild Track or a Badlands for 3 years at this point, give them a $2,500 credit. Like, that is just absolutely insane. And frankly, the icing on the cake for this situation is that after Ford announced this, I can tell you right now that Ford dealers all had meetings with their salespeople to discuss how they're going to approach customers about this information. Like, there was literally training on how to talk to these customers because, well, every single customer that a salesperson is going to talk to is going to be absolutely livid. Right? And so, like, that just goes to show you that Ford knows the exact reaction that people were going to give with the situation. They were going to be mad as hell, and that, you know, frankly, Ford is going to lose a lot of customers over this. Like, I think that's pretty straightforward. Like, if I put in an order for a vehicle 3 years ago and then I got told by the manufacturer, like, yep, nope, that's not going to happen. At this point, it's like, why would I ever order from that manufacturer ever again? I'm just putting myself in the shoes of the average Joe that, you know, maybe they've worked their whole life to be able to afford something like a Bronco. Because again, a Bronco is like a dream car for a lot of people. And so it's like you've been, you know, working hard your whole life to save up enough money to buy something, and you put in an order, right? You're hoping that you can get this dream car, and you just basically got told, nope, not going to happen. And if you want to go buy one, you can go buy a used one for $10,000, $20,000 over MSRP, or you can get in the back of the line and wait another 3+ years before you get one. Like, it's seriously just messed up. So that's going to sum things up for today's video talking about this Bronco situation. I want you guys to let me know what you think about this whole situation. And if you happen to be one of those people that put in an order at launch and you still haven't received your Bronco, I'd be really interested to hear, you know, your overall feelings about Ford's approach to this. And if you plan on ever purchasing a vehicle from Ford, or if you're going to jump ship and go to another manufacturer like, I don't know, Jeep, for example, and buy a Wrangler. And, you know, the joke that, you know, me and my friends have been making over the last few years because of all of Ford's supply constraints with, you know, the Bronco and the Raptor is that Ford happens to be the best selling force for Stellantis product in today's market, because you have so many people that can't get a Raptor, so they buy a TRX, and you have so many people that can't get a Bronco, so they buy a Wrangler. And it looks like, well, you're going to have a big influx of people that are probably going to be buying Wranglers in the very near future because they just realized that, well, they can't get a Bronco. Anyways, I'll see you.